What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we got some interesting news as undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, TERENCE Bud Crawford, superstar boxer, and two-time two-division world champion, former junior welterweight unified world champion, former WBC welterweight world champion, Danny Swift Garcia, superstar boxer. They come face to face. Now, there's a history there as they split, I believe, in the amateurs. And Terence Crawford was looking to secure a fight with Danny Garcia when they were both at junior welterweight. And then Terence Crawford, according to two-time welterweight world champion, superstar boxer Showtime Sean Porter, that was one of his main objectives when he moved up to welterweight, was to get a fight with Danny Swift Garcia. With that said, they came to face at the Saul Canelo Alvarez Avenue Yildirim fight, and Terence Crawford immediately tells Danny Garcia, "I want to fight you, right? I want to handle business with you, right?" Then they laugh it off and they take a picture. Terence Crawford said, "This is my boy." With that said, Danny Garcia, when asked about a fight, Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade is there, and this is an interview via AB Boxing News. Shout out to AB Boxing News. So this is an interview there, and Demetrius Andrade is there, and Demetrius Andrade is asked, "Who do you want to see? Who do you believe will win the fight between Terence Crawford and Danny Garcia?" And he says, "I got my money on Danny Garcia." Danny Garcia then responds, "I'm not fighting at 147 anymore. I'm not fighting at welterweight no more. I'm moving up to 154. And Terence Crawford says, "Oh, you're going to move up to 54? He says, "Yes." He says, "Yeah, I want to move up to 154 as well. I think I'm going to move up to 154 as well." So this is what they had to say regarding it. So you can hear a little clip when Terence Crawford tells Danny Garcia, "I'm going to get in you. I want to fight you. I want to whip you." So you hear Terence Crawford tell Danny Garcia, "Listen, I want to whip you," right? That's what he said. In that little clip right there, you can hear him say, "I want to whip you," right? And so you can hear it again, but you can hear the announcer. So it's a little loud in the arena, but listen closely. You can hear Terence Crawford tell Danny Garcia, "I want to whip you." You heard Terence Crawford say, "I want to kick you," right? That's him and Danny Garcia coming face to face, and then Demetrius Andrade, he starts egging it on, and he says, "I got my money on Danny Garcia. I got my money on Danny Garcia." That's what Demetrius Andrade, he starts to say, okay, in this interview. So you can hear Demetrius Andrade, he said, "These dudes is bigger than me. They need to be fighting at 160, 168, just like me. They bigger than me." And you're going to hear Danny Garcia say, "I'm not fighting." He said that this fight needs to happen, is what Andre said. And then Danny Garcia says, "I'm not fighting at 47 anymore." And Terence Crawford said, "You moving up?" And Danny Garcia said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, I want to move up too." Listen to what they had to say. So you heard him. He said, "I'm not fighting at 147. Terence Crawford says, "You're moving up?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "I want to move up too," which is interesting because, see, Danny Garcia, he has already secured big fights in his career. He's fought Sean Porter, Keith Thurman, and Errol Spence in his career already. So for him to move up, he lost those fights, but for him to move up is understandable. This just, pretty much slams the door shut on a fight between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, undefeated unified WBC IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer at 147 for undisputed, or that is, the super fight in the sport of boxing. It's currently the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, but it seems like Terence Crawford is, dismissing the possibility of making that fight happen. Obviously, he don't feel like Errol Spence is being reasonable with a 60-40 split. So he's saying he wants to move up. Now, it's still possible for us to get this fight between Errol Spence and Terence Crawford because Errol Spence, at some point in time, he plans on moving up to 154 as well. So that's a strong possibility. So it's still a possibility that we could get this fight come to fruition, but like I said, it seems like Terence Crawford at this point in time has disconnected himself from all the Errol Spence talk, and he stated on numerous occasions now that he don't see himself fighting Errol Spence. He's closing the door. He's not going to ask about it. He don't want to be asked about it. So he's closing the door on what could be the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, or what is the biggest fight. It's the super fight. And he says that now he's looking to move up. Well, that's ironic because you have legendary promoter, top-ranked CEO and promoter Bob Arum, who promotes Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is signed to top rank in ESPN, in which the network he fights on. And Bob Arum is saying that he's looking to secure a massive showdown for Terence Crawford and former 8-division world champion, legendary Filipino iconic superstar boxer Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao for his next fight. Well, we know Manny Pacquiao that fight is not going to take place at 154. So that begs the question, is this a fight that is truly possible? We also have the opportunity for Terence Crawford to face off against Showtime Sean Porter, who is his WBO mandatory challenger, okay? And then, not to mention, Terence Crawford, on a few occasions, when asked about the possibility of fighting Canelo Alvarez, he stated he's not moving up to 54 or 60, right? He says that, he wants to secure undisputed at 147, and then, he's essentially looking to ride off in the sunset, okay? Terence Crawford, I believe, gets frustrated with the politics in the sport of boxing, but he doesn't help himself on the business end with the decisions ultimately he makes. He leaves everything up to Bob Arum instead of forcing Bob Arum's hand. We saw that's a possibility with undefeated, unified, lightweight world champion superstar boxer Teofimo Lopez. He could push in the direction of the fight that he truly, truly wants to make happen, okay? So, again, Terence Crawford, you can hear Terence Crawford and Danny Garcia. They stated that they're going to move up to 154. I'll let you hear it again. Demetrius Andrade says these guys are bigger than me, but this is a fight that needs to happen. And Danny Garcia shakes his head and said, no, this is not a fight that's going to happen because I am moving up to 154. Okay, that's what he says. Listen. So you hear it right there. You saw it right there. He says, you moving up? He says, yeah. He says, I want to move up too. So shout out to AB Boxing News. Great brothers, man. Go subscribe to AB Boxing News, man. You can find this interview there. And like I said, a lot of Terence Crawford future is always in limbo. Since he moved up to welterweight division, it's always a question is if he can land these big fights. For Danny Garcia, like I stated, Danny Garcia moving up to 154 is understandable because Danny Garcia, he's fought the big fights. He's won some, he's lost some, but he has had massive fights, massive pay-per-view fights. Terence Crawford has admittingly stated that he's yet to secure these massive pay-per-view fights. He's yet to secure a legacy fight. So, this is truly a situation where maybe Terence Crawford is frustrated, or maybe he's just dismissing the business part of the sport of boxing. Errol Spence is saying that 60-40 split because he's the biggest star. Ironically enough, Danny Garcia, he just fought Errol Spence in a pay-per-view event that was successful, and it's a legacy fight. Now, he lost the fight badly. Some could argue he lost 10 rounds to 2, right? And those 2 rounds you give to Danny Garcia simply because Errol Spence was coming off a 14-month layoff, suffering a horrific car accident after having a rough, rugged, tough fight against Sean Porter in unification bout. And, you could see him fatiguing. He started to look up at the time, started looking up at the clock, see what round it is. He started to fatigue, okay? So he lost badly. Errol Spence dominated Danny Garcia, so it's understandable. And Danny Garcia is looking to seek to be a 3-division world champion in his own right. Now, a fight between Danny Garcia and Terence Crawford will be a huge fight. But you can hear Terence Crawford again when Demetrius Andrade is saying this is a fight I want to see, and this fight needs to happen. He says, well, this is my boy. So again, he stated that was the objective, was to get a Danny Garcia fight, when Sean Porter stated that he talked to Terence Crawford and asked him what direction you're looking to go in when you come to welterweight. And he said that his 2 main objectives is Manny Pacquiao and Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia because he was at junior welterweight and he was unable to secure that fight. So, we have to wait and see. Bob Arum says that, it's a possibility that Sean Porter is on recess. Okay, if they can't secure the Manny Pacquiao fight, he stated that he's looking for some investors. They're looking to invest in the Manny Pacquiao Terence Crawford fight, possibly in Dubai in May. But if that fight doesn't come to fruition, then he's looking to secure a fight between Terence Crawford and Sean Porter. These are both legacy fights for Terence Crawford in his career. If Terence Crawford moves up to 154, Danny Garcia moves up to 154, well, guess what? They're going to have to go through Jermell Charlo. Jermell Charlo is a superstar boxer. He's a two-time junior middleweight world champion. He's unified right now. He's only missing one belt. That's the WBO belt that Patrick Teixeira had, and he just recently lost it to Castano. Now Castano is looking to face off against Jermell Charlo in the undisputed match. So in order for them to move up, that being Danny Garcia and Terence Crawford, they're going to have to go through Jermell Charlo, which would be a massive, huge fight to be a world champion at 154. So we got to see how this unfolds and plays out. But, Danny Garcia was also asked, he says, I'm just enjoying life. He says, what needs to be done to make this fight happen? And Danny Garcia, he responds by saying, just call the right people and we can make it happen. But I'm just enjoying life right now. So he's not interested in looking to make this fight, but he's looking to move up. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. I don't like Danny Garcia at 154. Those guys are real big at 154. And Danny Garcia is flat-footed. His style, matched up right, he could be successful at 154. But I believe that, Jermell Charlo is very big. Tony Harrison is big. Those guys at 154. Swift Jarrett Hurd, he's big. Erickson Lubin, he's big. Julian J. Rock Williams. These guys are big junior middleweights, right? And so I believe that Danny Garcia's style is bad matchup for these guys, because he's flat-footed. You got to be mobile when you're dealing with guys that are bigger than you in the sport of boxing. Terence Crawford can be successful because he's more versatile than Danny Garcia. But we got to see how this unfolds. I would love to see a showdown. That would be massive if we don't see Errol Spence and Terence Crawford straight away or anytime soon. Jermell Charlo versus Terence Crawford would be a huge fight. That's the only way he'll be a world champion, because I believe that Jermell Charlo will beat Castano and become undisputed. So all roads lead through Jermell Charlo. So let's see. Ironically enough, he was at this fight as well. So let's see how this unfolds and plays out. That's all I got for y'all. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue, Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to New Media. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.